your say, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience, because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pearce.
And me, Miriam Cates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Do you trust what you're being told? Good, because neither do I.
Those are just facts.
I'm Alex Armstrong, and on my show, we'll expose the spin.
Well, I want to answer that, because you didn't let me last time, because you always speak over me.
The broken promises.
To deny that is denying the truth.
And the hypocrisy.
We can allow.
Stop.
We can allow.
Politics, policy, parliament. Nothing is off limits. No sugarcoating, no fear of offence, just the truth laid bare. Tune in every Saturday and Sunday at 9 p.m. for Alex Armstrong Tonight, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Breaking news, live updates, stories that matter.
From the heart of the GB newsroom to every corner of Britain, with our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
GB News bulletins are there to deliver the latest news that matters to you.
Bulletins on GB News,
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
More and more people are now tuning in to GB News.
They shape our programmes, we try and incorporate them in our shows as much as we can.
Our audience are really interactive.
Our listeners, our viewers, they're growing.
And that's because they tell their friends and family about what we're doing here at GB News.
It feels like the depth of that connection has strengthened as well.
Thank you so much for speaking to us on GB News.
Come and say hello to everybody that's here from GB News.
It's been an exceptional event.
We've come a long way here now.
Thank you, GB News!
What's so unique about GB News viewers is that they really, really love our country.
And they talk about us so proudly.
We're on a journey together.
We are here for all of Britain. We believe in this country, we believe in its people, and we believe in all of the communities who live here.
That's what makes us the fearless champion of Britain.
Good morning and welcome to the Camilla Tominey Show on GB News. When Liz Truss resigned as Prime Minister in 2022, one of the most prominent voices calling for an immediate general election was, of course, Sir Keir Starmer. Less than 2 years into government, and he has now resigned, paving the way for the coronation of Andy Burnham. But will the British public get a vote on the next PM? One of Sir Keir Starmer's most faithful supporters, the Housing Secretary Steve Reed, will be on the programme. I'll ask him whether he thinks the Makerfield MP will have a mandate to govern, and if he's worried about losing his job in the inevitable cabinet reshuffle. I'll also be talking to Sir James Cleverly about how the Conservatives plan to oppose a Burnham premiership and if the Tories are truly ready for a possible snap general election. As a Labour leadership contest looks unlikely, will we find out much about the wannabe Prime Minister or his policies before he's in post? I'll be joined by Sacha Lord, Andy Burnham's former nighttime economy advisor in Greater Manchester, to gain a better insight into the man who could be leading the country in a matter of weeks. Independent MP for Canterbury Rosie Duffield will be here. What does she make to the briefings this week that Labour could be set for their first woman Prime Minister in, wait for it, Andy Burnham? And how does she evaluate his handling of the trans issue? And 10 years on from the Brexit referendum, economist and author Roger Bootle will be here to talk about his new, fully revised edition of the book, The Trouble with Europe. Plus, how would he define Andy Burnham's economic approach? As ever, another packed 90 minutes of punchy politics to come, so do not even think of going anywhere. But first, joining me now to review all of the front pages on the Sunday papers is the editor of The Spectator and Conservative peer, Michael Gove. Very well done. It's your story, isn't it? The Andy Burnham's the first female Prime Minister.
It was.
There's a briefing to The Spectator.
It was. Our brilliant political editor, Tim Shipman, was talking to a senior Labour figure who came up with this extraordinary argument that because Andy Burnham was interested in education and health, which are girls' issues, that he was a female PM in waiting.
Yes, apparently girl issues do not include bombs and budgets.
Oh, no. You can't possibly... No, you can't have a girlie like Margaret Thatcher being in charge of a war. No, absolutely not.
Well, we'll get on to that with Rosie Duffield. I'm wondering if she's going to revise her opinion of Andy Burnham after that revelation. But let's get on to his big economy speech, which is going to take place tomorrow in Manchester.
Of course.
Naturally. What do you think Burnhamomics are? Because you worked alongside him. He was your rival when you were Education Secretary. You also worked with him in the Communities Department. Who is this guy, Michael, and what does he stand for? Do we know?
Well, we know some of what he stands for. So we know that he's a pretty classic Labour figure. And all the evidence is that during his time in the Labour Party, he's tried to avoid being defined as either left or right. There's the famous joke, which I'm sure GB viewers know.
Yes, I've told it several times.
About him walking into a pub and people thinking he's both a Blairite, a Brownite, a Corbynite, all the rest of it. The truth is that he's not, far left. One of the things, though, that he is very keen on is devolution. He wants more power to go to more mayors and new mayors to be created. Perhaps unsurprisingly, given his own political success as Mayor of Manchester, he thinks that is the route to reviving the economy of those parts of the United Kingdom outside the South East, which has been the main economic powerhouse.
He seems to want to devolve power to councils to possibly set taxes, which are going to set alarm bells ringing when it comes to councils that aren't necessarily Labour or Tory run, because obviously the Greens have got some council control now, so have Reform. It's quite a controversial policy, that, if he ends up enacting it.
Well, yes, and one of the things he wants to do is to ensure that he says he wants to incentivise local authorities to attract more business, so that if you get new businesses coming in, you can keep the business rates that they generate. At the moment, all of that money goes to the Treasury.
Right.
Now, theoretically, that could be quite a good idea, because theoretically that should encourage mayors and local authorities to be more business-friendly.
Yes.
So there are fewer low-traffic neighbourhoods and more emphasis on dealing with antisocial behaviour.
Here's hoping.
Here's hoping. But the problem, you're absolutely right, is that often when you give tax varying powers to local authorities, they end up being tax-raising powers.
Indeed, and it ends up being a bit of a postcode lottery, I would imagine. The return of David Miliband, according to The Observer, he's eyeing up the post of Foreign Secretary. Good idea? You'll be familiar with the other brother too.
Yeah. So David Miliband, fair play to him. He left politics and devoted himself to charity, albeit at, I think, a salary of more than $1 million a year.
Right.
But nevertheless...
That's work if you can get it.
Nevertheless, but I think, honestly, one of the challenges that Andy Burnham faces is showing that he is a change and that the world has moved on from the past. Whatever you think of the Blair years, David Miliband is indelibly associated with them.
Yes.
And there's a certain haughtiness and arrogance about David Miliband's approach to politics.
Is there? Well, that's a very interesting observation. Why?
Yeah.
He can be a bit full of himself.
Well, that's why he didn't become Labour leader. That's why his brother Ed beat him.
Well, his brother Ed did stab him in the back, as Kemi Badenoch pointed out at PMQs on Wednesday.
Well, the question in a way is, actually, given that David Miliband was more senior, why did Ed Miliband beat him? And I think that, whatever you say about the two...
Yes.
And Ed Miliband is probably more left-wing. But Ed Miliband is also, I think, he's got... these things are relative.
Yes.
Slightly more emotional intelligence.
Right.
And Ed Miliband has been more successful, and I think destructively so, but more successful in running his government departments than David Miliband.
Also, what's always this need, Gordon Brown and others, to bring back old guard.
Exactly.
You've got more than 400 Labour MPs and still you're having to choose outside the tent for the next Prime Minister, now choosing outside the tent for the next Cabinet Ministers. It's extraordinary.
I think that's a bullseye. I mean, I think it's an insult to the existing group of Labour MPs to bring David Miliband back.
So we've discussed his brother, who is angling to be the next Chancellor. So too is Wes Streeting.
Yeah.
So too, we read in The Sun, is Pat McFadden.
Yeah.
Which of those three would be... There's two different questions here. Which of those three would be best for the country? Do you think?
I think Pat McFadden would be the best for the country, because I think that he's the one with the least ego and the biggest brain.
OK. Fine, all right. But which of these three would be best for the Tories? And I ask that because you want them to go further leftwards, I think, so that you can restate the case for free market capitalist economics, I imagine. Yeah,
well, firstly, I'd rather that they chose the person who is best for the country. But you're absolutely right. If Ed Miliband became Chancellor of the Exchequer, this would just confirm the leftward drift of Labour, and it would make the critique of the government that Kemi Badenoch has mounted even more relevant.
Might also help reform, though.
Well, you don't know. But I think one of the things about Parliament and the battle in Parliament is not just because of sheer numbers, but also because of Kemi Badenoch's superior performance in the Commons. If we're talking about Commons jousts, then it definitely helps the Tories to have Ed Miliband there.
Yes.
Reform's strength continues to be in their plague on all your houses appeal outside the Commons.
Will be interesting to see how Prime Minister's questions pans out with Badenoch versus Burnham, won't it? Because she can be quite aggressive and she got criticised in the week. Do you think fairly criticised for the Bridget Phillipson attack?
Absolutely not. She was... look, I think that Bridget Phillipson is a grown-up. She can take that criticism. It was criticism about her policies.
Yes.
And I think that the idea that it was sort of somehow over the top is ridiculous, given some of the things that have been said in the past about different politicians on different sides, given some of the things that have been said about Kemi Badenoch by Labour MPs. So I think everyone should just grow up.
I know, but if Burnham does a kind of Mr. Nice Guy act at the dispatch box, it's going to be like a Rottweiler attacking a Chihuahua.
Well, it is the case that Kemi Badenoch can adjust. So when she, immediately after the general election, when she was up against Angela Rayner, she had a very different tactic then. And I think the key thing is that when Andy Burnham arrives, he is actually a more personable and wittier character. I'm not saying he's a better politician necessarily, but he's definitely more attractive as a human being than Keir Starmer was at the dispatch box, and therefore I think that he will have, if not a honeymoon period, he'll certainly have an initial period. A Burnham bounce, exactly.
There's lots in the papers today about uniting the right.
Yeah.
So we've got Tory MPs apparently and donors urging Badenoch to make a deal with Reform. That's in the Sunday Telegraph. We got Lord Ashcroft interviewed in the Sunday Express saying Farage should do a deal with Kemi, and he's just written a book about the Reform UK leader. What do you reckon?
I think it's premature. So I'm a wee bit sceptical about the idea of uniting the right, but I understand that there are lots of people, including Michael Ashcroft, who's, incredibly knowledgeable about the landscape of British politics, who think that something like this may be inevitable. I think that whether or not you're in favour, and as I say, I'm very sceptical about the idea, let's wait to see. Until we're closer to an election. My own view is that the Conservatives are gaining in the polls bit by bit, and it may be, and I think it probably will be at some point in the next year, that the Conservatives will overtake Reform, and that will change the debate.
I mean, Reform are well ahead in all polls.
I think the Conservatives will overtake Reform in the course of the next year.
Is this wishful thinking, Lord Gober?
Let's see.
Come on now, because lots
Bring me
of
back
people
in 12 months' time.
Not into politics, just into this studio.
Oh, yeah,
right?
definitely not into politics.
But you do appreciate there are so many Tory voters that will never forgive you
for
of
14
course. Years.
I think the key difference is there are lots of people who quite rightly won't forgive me, but the difference is that Kemi Badenoch
I meant the collective you,
sure.
not you personally.
Yeah. But Kemi Badenoch is a new leader with a new team, and she has disavowed some of the mistakes of the Tory past. And I think if you look at the big changes that have been forced on this government, whether it's on inheritance tax for farmers, whether it's getting them to U-turn on welfare, or whether it's skewering Starmer over the Mandelson appointment, it's been Kemi Badenoch who's done that.
Well, you would say that because you are a Conservative peer, but noted. Are you basically saying you could win the next general election? This is where the big question comes in.
Who knows? Who knows? You know, the thing is that I don't want to take anything away from Reform's achievements so far, and there are some very impressive people, obviously, in Team Reform, Danny Kruger, Zia Youssef. They're not negligible figures, but I do think that there is a difference between Reform and the Conservatives. I think Reform at the moment are primarily a party that feeds on discontent. The Conservatives have a more constructive programme overall.
And what about Restore? Sorry, it's not on the list, but I'm going to ask you anyway because you're so flexible that you can answer any question. Yeah. There was a story in the papers where Restore was saying, right, we're going to stand a candidate wherever there's a less than, I think, 8% swing or something to the Tories. They're basically saying, if we can take Reform, we're going to take them. And that's going to really pose problems for Nigel Farage, isn't it?
I think it may. But again, to be fair to Nigel Farage, Rupert Lowe, he's a nice guy, but some of the people behind him have got some pretty horrible views. And I think one of the things that Farage has always tried to do is to say, look, there's a line. You know, Farage will say, I'm quite robust on things like migration, but I am not going to go into the sort of Tommy Robinson, ultra sort of nationalist territory. Sure. And Rupert Lowe, I fear, has gone into that territory and gathered around him a group of young men with some quite strident views. So in that sense, I think that Nigel Farage is right to say, look, these people are beyond the pale.
Michael Gove, thank you very much indeed for your clarity, expertise and wisdom this morning. Great to speak to you. Thank you. Coming up next, I'm going to be joined by Andy Burnham's former nighttime economy advisor in Greater Manchester, Sacha Lord, and I've got that interview with Housing Secretary Steve Reed still to come. Don't go anywhere.
I hope we haven't forgotten anything.
Travel insurance, I tick that box.
Yeah, but remember what you forgot last year.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there and welcome to your holiday sign-up forecast from the Met Office. The heat wave across Europe does continue over the next few days, but it will slowly start to cool off. Across parts of Spain, they did see the record-breaking temperatures, but they are slowly starting to decrease through the days. We do have thunderstorms across northern Italy, but the mainland are pushing 40 degrees. Athens and Santorini are around the high 20s and low 30s, but as I said, as we go through the week, those temperatures will start to drop towards those low 30s.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
GB News Breakfast. Every day from 6 a.m.
And it's Father's Day. I don't know if my dad's up yet. If you are, happy Father's Day.
He's already texted.
Is he?
He's tuning in.
Mr. Reaper, good morning to you.
Sunday, well, speaking of Sunday lunches, he'll be having a roast pork joint later, courtesy of myself.
Good.
Cards and gifts are a big part of the day, of course, but it's also important to remember that there is more to it than that.
Yeah, because it's not just about one day, is it? Actually, it's like, what do dads do? And healthy fathers, a healthy sort of father-son, father-daughter relationship builds strong families, builds strong communities and helps build a strong country, actually.
Well, that is why mentoring the next generation matters more than ever. So take a little extra time today. Make sure you do to appreciate not just the fathers or the grandfathers or the uncles out there, but any strong father figure that you may have.
GB News, the People's Channel. GB News Breakfast. Every day from 6 a.m.
Welcome back to Breakfast, 25 minutes past 6. And breaking news this morning, the TV presenter Jeremy Clarkson has revealed that he's been diagnosed with aggressive prostate cancer in an emotional video.
In the scenes, he's telling his co-stars Caleb Cooper and Charlie Ireland, his land agent and his farm manager, and they're both devastated, as you can imagine. You know, it's a huge bombshell to drop on them. He's only 66. made no secret that he's maybe not lived the healthiest lifestyle. After the heart problems, he bemoans having to eat Greek yogurt and kale and whatnot. But following this, I think he's going to have a complete lifestyle overhaul even further, and just fingers crossed the treatment proves effective.
GB News, the People's Channel. Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
Hello there, Emily and Tom. Yes, some breaking news in the last few moments from Kensington Palace regarding our future king, Prince George of Wales, the oldest son of the Prince and Princess of Wales. The short statement from Kensington Palace reads, Kensington Palace can confirm that Prince George will attend Eton College in September. That news just coming in from the royal household in the last few moments. This clearly is, well, perhaps not surprising news for those in royal circles. Eton College, the most prestigious school, arguably in the country, educating 20 prime ministers, and of course Prince George's own father and uncle, Prince William and Prince Harry, as well as 2 Dukes of Gloucester, the Duke of Kent and Prince Michael of Kent as well. So that confirmation just coming in from Kensington Palace. £63,000 a year it costs to send a child to Eton College.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Welcome back. Andy Burnham's former nighttime economy advisor in Greater Manchester, Sasha Lord, joins me now. Sasha, lovely to see you this morning. Help us out here. I think there are many people watching and listening to GB News this morning thinking this bloke could become Prime Minister as soon as July the 17th, possibly even earlier, and we don't know a thing about him. So tell us, what is Andy Burnham really all about?
Well, I think we're going to see a much different type of politics, Camilla. I think we're going to see a more collaborative approach. And I'll give you a perfect example of that. In conversations I've had with him, he's been very complimentary regarding Michael Gove, who you just had on your show. And you probably wouldn't expect that from a Labour politician. And you're quite right to pick up on it. You know, the dispatch box, this constant sniping that we see every Wednesday at PMQs, I don't think we're going to see that. You know, in Greater Manchester, there are 10 boroughs. They're not all Labour boroughs. They're made up of Labour, Lib Dems and Conservatives. And Andy Burnham has worked with all those leaders. And that is part down to the success of this thing we call Manchesterism. He's always put place before party.
But place before party is one thing if you're actually standing in Manchester, as he did to become the mayor, or indeed in Makerfield, which is on the outskirts of Wigan, in order to become the MP there. Being Prime Minister is something very, very different. So what does he have that others lack that could make him good at this job?
Well, his first big speech is coming tomorrow at 11:30, and I'm delighted that speech is going to be about the economy, because we've spoken about it before, Camilla, on your show. You know, my sector, hospitality, is absolutely on his knees. So tomorrow we're going to hear what exactly is he going to do. And we already know that he's going to start by giving far more powers to regional mayors across the whole of the UK. And I think he's going to be rolling out what he's done in Greater Manchester. And, you know, all those mayors aren't just Labour mayors, or Tory mayors as well. So he's going to give more power. And he's absolutely right to do that. You know, Leeds and Sheffield probably need different things to people in Coventry and Southampton. So he's giving more power to people who know what is needed in their regions.
OK, so he's a devolutionist, but what are his politics? Is he a socialist? Is he blue Labour? I mean, you know the old joke. Michael Gove nearly told it earlier about a Starmerite and a Corbynite and a Brownite and a Blairite walking into the bar and the barman saying, hello, Andy. The guy's all over the place politically, isn't he? I mean, he seems to blow in the wind.
I actually think that joke that I've heard quite a few times, I've heard that joke could benefit it, because it's showing that he's prepared to work with everybody. And I think this is what we're going to see now. We're going to see something far more different. I think we're also going to see a more casual type of politics. You know, Starmer has been very formal the whole time, hasn't he? And he's not really bonded with the public. Whereas I think with Andy, you know, he listens to people. He genuinely listens. And, you know, it's a joke here in Greater Manchester that if you have a meeting with Andy Burnham, he's going to be 25 to 30 minutes late. Now, that's not because he's not punctual. That's because after every talk or every meeting, he stops and listens to people and shakes hands with people. You know, and I'll be honest, it's a nightmare to get into places on time.
OK, so at the moment we've got attributes. He's a nice guy. I mean, that doesn't necessarily make a good Prime Minister. If you were going to be critical in the face of your spin positively about his character, you'd actually interpret his shake of hands and taking of selfies to be indicative of a man that really cares about his own popularity. Therefore, it's going to be really difficult for him to make the hard decisions that are needed to propel this country forward. And second of all, you say, well, he listens to everyone. Is he decisive? Can he make the tough decisions? He hasn't really had to as mayor, because this is all about big budget civic duty, cutting ribbons, opening envelopes. It's not running the country. I mean, we need somebody very serious, don't we, about politics at these times. There's war in Iran. There's war in the Ukraine. We were in a cost of living crisis. We're in pretty desperate times, Sacha Lord.
Well, we are, Camilla, and he's got a few weeks now to set out exactly what his policies are. But let me just remind everybody that back in 2017, only 2 weeks into when he became Mayor of Greater Manchester, on the 22nd of May, there was an attack at the Manchester Arena where 22 people lost their lives and hundreds of other people were affected. Andy Burnham stood and spoke for not just the city region, but for the country as well. And how many times have we seen him do this? Hillsborough, another time. And, you know, you say he's a nice guy. Trust me, I have seen the other side of Andy. I've seen people leave his office shaking. When he wants something, he goes out and he gets it and he bats for it. And we saw when Greater Manchester was in Tier 3 longer than any other city region, everyone will remember that moment where a text comes through on his phone and the government withdrew tens of millions of pounds from Andy because he was standing up for the people of Greater Manchester. What that was about was the government were offering us 67% of furlough when the rest of the country got 80%. And he stood up for the whole of the city region. He fought back and he won and he got us the 80%. So, yeah, he is a nice guy. But when he wants something, he gets it and he fights for what's right.
Did you say, Sacha, did I get that right, that you had witnessed people coming out of meetings with Andy Burnham shaking?
Well, I mean, the buses, when he took the buses back under public control, he had to go up against several different companies. They were fighting him in boardrooms, in courts. And, you know, when he has to scream and shout, there is that side of Andy. He gets it. OK. Don't you think we should have a general election? I mean, if Burnham's so great and everyone loves him so much and he's got all of these attributes, why doesn't he take his mandate to the country and see if the country, beyond Manchester and beyond Makerfield, supports it? That would be the democratic thing to do, not least because who was calling for a general election now back in 2020? Andy Burnham. Yeah, I think if he was going to change the mandate completely, I would agree with you, Camilla. But he's not. He's going to stick to that until the next general election. And then at the next general election in two and a half years, whenever it's going to be, then he will probably change the mandate and, you know, deliver a lot of Andy Burnham's policies. But at the moment, I don't think the country wants another general election this time around.
Well, you say that. YouGov have polled... Well, hang on. YouGov have polled the country, asked, do you want a general election? 48% said yes, 35% said no. So the country does want a general election.
The country's broken, Camilla. He needs to get into Downing Street. He needs to do the job and just give him a couple of years to get us back on track.
When you say that he'll stick to the manifesto, which famously had the word change written on it, I'm not sure Keir Starmer in his power stance realised it meant change him. But that therefore means that he won't be able to cross any of those red economic lines in his speech tomorrow. That manifesto was really clear. No increase to income tax, VAT. OK, the national insurance promise was rather broken on the employer side, if not the employee side. So he's not going to be able to put up taxes. How is he therefore going to fund all of his big spending ambitions? More borrowing?
I've no idea, Camilla. We'll need to ask Andy, and hopefully tomorrow the answers will be there in his speech.
Do you think he's going to tack further leftwards then? What's your instinct on where he might go? He's got two paths before him, and maybe we'll find out the answer to this question when we find out who his next Chancellor is. If he was going to be Red Labour and lean into the left, maybe to take on Zach Polanski's Greens, then he would appoint somebody like Ed Miliband to be Chancellor. If he wants to be more blue Labour, and let's be honest, he did say Makerfield was a touchstone, and that's a 65% Leave seat that might want further deregulation and to move away from Brussels. if he elects somebody more right-wing, then we'll know whether he's going to be right-wing in his economics. But what do you know of him briefly, Sasha? Which direction do you think he'll pivot towards?
I think he's going to go middle ground, if I'm being honest. But you're right. He needs to come out now and start making a few appointments over the next few weeks just to stabilise everybody's concerns. I'm sick to death every time I open socials. It's this person, it's that person. Depending which journalist you're talking to, they seem to think they've got inside knowledge. And there's that much nonsense that's being written at the moment. Nobody actually knows. It's like people are just making stuff up on that.
That could be because he hasn't made himself clear yet, Sasha Lord, but we need to leave it there. Thank you very much indeed for your time this morning. Some great insight from you there. Thank you. Lots more coming up on today's show. Housing Secretary Steve Reid will join me. I'm going to ask him about whether he would serve in a Burnham cabinet. Shadow Housing Secretary Sir James Cleverly also here. The Independent MP for Canterbury, Rosie Duffield, and the economist Roger Bootle on the trouble with Europe. Stay tuned.
It's a Great British Giveaway Golden Summer Celebration. Your chance to win 2 fantastic prizes. There's an incredible £60,000 in tax-free cash. Plus, you'll also get your hands on a fine gold bar worth over £5,000. For a chance to win £60,000 in tax-free cash and a real gold bar, text GOLD to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entry starts at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB22 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 21st of August. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pulled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I've been in Westminster for a long time, but I know that though power may be here, its effect on people's lives is across the whole of the country. We may be where rules are made, but it's where they're implemented that matters. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for forthright and frank discussion on where Britain has come from, where it's going, and where it will end up. That's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Vox Populi, Vox Dei.
Do you trust what you're being told? Good, because neither do I.
Those are just facts.
I'm Alex Armstrong, and on my show, we'll expose the spin.
Well, I want to answer that because you didn't let me last time, because you always speak over me.
The broken promises.
To deny that is denying the truth.
And the hypocrisy.
Needs to stop.
You think we can allow?
Politics, policy, parliament. Nothing is off limits. No sugarcoating, no fear of offence, just the truth laid bare. Tune in every Saturday and Sunday at 9 p.m. for Alex Armstrong Tonight, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Good morning and welcome back to the Camilla Tominey Show on GB News. Lots more still to come today. One of Sir Keir Starmer's most faithful supporters, the Housing Secretary Steve Reid, will be on the programme. I'll ask him whether he thinks the Makerfield MP will have a mandate to govern and if he's worried about losing his job in the inevitable cabinet reshuffle. I'll also be talking to Sir James Cleverly about how the Conservatives plan to oppose a Burnham premiership and if the Tories are truly ready for a possible snap general election. The Independent MP for Canterbury, Rosie Duffield, will be here. What does she make to the briefing this week that Labour could be set for their first woman Prime Minister in Andy Burnham? And how does she evaluate his approach to the trans issue? And 10 years on from the Brexit referendum, economist and author Roger Bootle will be here to talk about a fully revised edition of his book, The Trouble with Europe. Plus, how would he define Andy Burnham's economic approach? All of that and much more. But first, here's your latest news headlines with Sophia Wensler.
Camilla, thank you and good morning. Your headlines at 10 o'clock. England have beaten Panama, scoring 2-0, which means they have now qualified for the World Cup knockout stages. First, with a breakthrough from Jude Bellingham and then a second goal from Harry Kane, becoming England's all-time World Cup top scorer. Elsewhere, Scotland's manager has stepped down after his side crashed out of the World Cup. Andy Burnham is preparing to set out his economic agenda tomorrow in his first major speech since announcing his bid for the Labour leadership. The Makerfield MP's close ally, Louise Hay, has called for the increase in capital gains tax and a loosening of the government's fiscal rules. It all comes amid speculation over who will become Chancellor in an Andy Burnham government, with Pat McFadden emerging as a leading contender. Also rumoured to be in the running are Energy Secretary Ed Miliband and former Health Secretary Wes Streeting. Iran and the US continued to exchange fire in the Gulf despite signing an interim deal to end the war less than 2 weeks ago. US military have released this footage of targeted attacks on Iran after it struck a Panama-flagged tanker in the Strait of Hormuz yesterday. Iran has since launched multiple missiles and drones towards neighbouring countries, including Bahrain and Kuwait. No injuries have yet been reported. The UK's Royal Marines are set to receive a £500 million funding boost as part of the government's long-awaited defence investment plan. It will cover new high-speed boats, strike drones and advanced technology, with a focus on strengthening Britain's presence in the Arctic amid growing Russian activity. Outgoing Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer is set to release the spending plans ahead of the NATO summit next month. Rescue efforts are continuing in Venezuela after 2 deadly back-to-back earthquakes struck the country. At least 1,400 people have been killed and more than 3,360 are injured, according to the latest official figures. Buildings were flattened in the disaster on Wednesday, with more than 50,000 people still reported missing. Those are the latest GB News headlines. Now it's back to Camilla.
Thank you, Sophia. Earlier I spoke to Shadow Housing Secretary Sir James Cleverly. Here's what he had to say. James Cleverly, the Shadow Housing Secretary and MP for Braintree, joins me now in the GB News studio. Lovely to see you in the flesh.
Thank you.
Now, it looks as if Andy Burnham may be crowned Prime Minister, in which case don't we need a general election now?
Well, I didn't call for general elections when we changed leaders. I think there are bigger problems that we need to deal with as a country. We need to get defence spending sorted. We live in a turbulent world. We see everything that's going on with Iraq at the moment, Russia's invasion of Ukraine. What the government needs to do, what the Labour Party needs to do, is stop messing around and really focus. We were punished when we looked as if we weren't paying enough attention to the country. And I think it would be an error for the government to do the same thing. Now, the fact of the matter is we don't know what Andy Burnham is going to do.
Yes, exactly.
It looks as if he's going to take the government further to the left, and you can see a load of people positioning themselves to be part of that new left-wing government. Kemi's made it really, really clear. Our priority is for the government to spend the appropriate amount of money on defence, and that is a lot more than they're spending at the moment.
Well, we read in the Sunday Times that actually Dan Jarvis, the new Defence Secretary, has got that figure up from 13.5 to 15 billion, but it still falls short of the 28 billion that was recommended in the spending review. But just, sorry, quickly, on that note about the British public and what they expect, I know you haven't previously called for general elections. I mean, thank goodness, because otherwise you would have called for very many over the course of the last decade because of the Tories' own inability to keep one person in place for a long stretch of time. However, are you saying really you don't want a general election because the Tories aren't ready for one?
Oh, look, we can be ready at the drop of a hat.
Well, are you ready?
We've got an extensive association network. We've got a load of experienced counsellors. We've got people from business and public services who are ready to step forward. So if we had to, we absolutely could.
Because you're the opposition. I don't understand why you wouldn't be saying to the country, listen, this guy Burnham's come down from Manchester. Nobody really knows what he stands for. He's got no mandate whatsoever. Keir Starmer was elected, OK, with a landslide, but it was a loveless one. As the official opposition, I'm surprised you're not absolutely clamouring for a general election. But
So
is it because the Conservatives won't win one?
No, this is about credibility and honesty. And this is the difference between us and, say, Reform, for example. So on election night, Reform was saying, when it became clear that Andy Burnham was going to end up as Prime Minister, they were saying, we need a general election now, we're ready for it. It's absolute nonsense. They would need 650 candidates, which they don't have. They said they're going to pack out the House of Lords, so they'll need a couple of hundred extra there. Sure. And they were going to reform the top of the civil service, so an extra couple of hundred there. So they're saying they are ready to have 1,000 people step into government at short notice.
But are you ready?
Bearing in mind, though, Camilla, they struggled to get one decent candidate for by-election.
OK.
So the point
the
point I'm making is that is the difference. They are saying it because they think that's what they have to say, but it's not credible and no one believes them, and that dishonesty is toxic. We are saying that if we had to, we absolutely could fight and I think have a really good chance of winning a general election. But the priority at the moment, the economy is suffering and we need to change tack on that. And the government could do that. They could increase spending tomorrow on defence. They could do that tomorrow. They could reverse the welfare increases and spend that money on defence. That's what they should be doing, rather than having yet another hiatus.
Is the other problem that you're saying you have a good chance of winning, but let's look at Makerfield. So under Boris Johnson...
Let's look at Aberdeen South.
OK, we can do in a minute. Just Makerfield, first of all, just because it's in the red wall and it's therefore relevant. You know, it's a 65% Leave seat, predominantly white. It's the kind of seat that the Tories took from Labour in 2019. Back then, your vote share in Makerfield was about 35%. And the recent by-election, you lost your deposit. You're down to 2%. So maybe you don't want to fight a general election because you know you can't win back the red wall this quickly.
Well, we won the Aberdeen South by-election, coming from third. We won council seats in the same time, taking seats off of Reform in Essex. We've taken seats off the Lib Dems local elections. The point is, we know that we can fight and we can win. We are the most trusted on the economy. Kemi Badenoch is the most popular leader in the country. But what I'm not going to do is what Reform do, what Labour do, which is look you in the eye and say things which are nonsense. I'll leave that to Nigel Farage and Reform to basically lie to the voters, as they did to try and get council seats.
It's not a lie to the voters to say that they want a general election.
No, they don't. He doesn't even want to be Prime Minister. We've seen this. He is now hiding from the cameras.
Because he probably does, doesn't he?
No, he really doesn't.
Why do you say he doesn't want to be Prime Minister?
Because he doesn't want to do the actual job. He wants to get the job title. He wants to prove to people that he could win the election. I don't believe for a moment he actually wants to do the hard work, make the tough decisions. As I say, he can't even select one candidate.
OK, fair enough. But he is leading in the polls, isn't he? He's doing better than the Conservatives. There's quite a lot of stories in the Sunday papers today. They have slipped back since last summer, but they're still ahead of you, OK? By about 5 percentage points, if not more. There's quite a lot of rhetoric in today's papers about Tory MPs, according to the Sunday Telegraph, agitating for the right to unite, to see off 4 more years of Labour or indeed a progressive alliance. Lord Ashcroft's in the Sunday Express interviewed. He's just done a book about Farage, saying, Farage should do a deal with the Tories. What's your reaction to that?
Well, Kemi's made it clear we're not
I
going
know,
to do...
but is that a little bit wrong-headed when you consider that if you didn't do a deal with Reform, you could let in the left for another 4 years? And what would that do to the country, according to the Tories?
We intend to beat Labour, and we intend to govern as Conservatives. We are the only party that has a proper plan for defence. Reform don't even have a defence spokesperson. They only have a foreign affairs spokesperson. We're the only party that will reduce the welfare bill and has a plan to do so. Reform are voting to increase spending on welfare. We're the only we're the only
but
party.
I'm talking about if push came to shove with the electoral
They are
matters
not
as it
a
is.
party of the right.
So
they're
if
not a party of the
Reform
right.
became had the most votes but couldn't form a majority, that the Tories wouldn't come and back them up to see off 4 more years of Labour or something that some might consider even worse.
A party of the right. They are a high-spending, high-welfare, nationalising, populist party. They are not a Thatcherite party.
A lot of your voters have gone over there. So
and we will win them back.
You do have some common ground,
we will
don't
win them
you?
back, less than you think.
All right, let's talk about Shabana Mahmood. It's an indicator, perhaps, of how Burnham may rule as Prime Minister. She's now come out with this migrant scheme, Safe and Legal Routes. As a former Home Secretary, what's your view on that?
Well, we can see what's happening here. She was a tough Home Secretary. She was, I think, a pretty decent Home Secretary. She kept a number of the visa reforms that I put in place, which have been bringing down legal migration, and that is to be applauded. What she's now doing is pitching to the left because that's where she thinks Burnham wants her to be. So she's now brought out this scheme. She could have announced this scheme when she first, if it was such a good idea, she could have announced this when she first became Home Secretary, but she didn't. She's only bringing it out now because she wants to curry favour with Andy Burnham and stay as Home Secretary. The point is that if we're going to properly get control of our borders, we've got to do the really difficult things that Labour are not prepared to do. We've got to leave the ECHR so that we can actually deport the people that shouldn't be here, so we can actually have proper control. Labour are not proposing that. They're dead against it. And indeed, they opposed the visa changes that I brought in at the time, and they are now claiming credit for the reduction in migration.
She may be arguing, we do need to crack down on illegal immigration and we need to bring down mass migration to this country, but we also need to be fair and we need to take our fair share of asylum seekers.
Absolutely. So let's do.
And she's doing it through safe and legal routes, right?
Let's do it in the right. Let's do it in the right sequence. Let's get a grip of the illegal migrations. Let's get a grip of the people who are abusing the system, abusing refugee status, abusing the asylum system. Let's get the system working properly, and that requires us leaving the ECHR. Once we do that, and we get the numbers down, and we have public buy-in, then we can look at safe and legal routes. But the problem with the left is they think having lots of safe and legal routes reduces illegal migration, and it doesn't work like that.
But you do appreciate that people might find reform and indeed restore more credible on claims that they'll bring down immigration, with the Tories having failed to do so.
They won't.
Well, it's all very well for you to say.
I brought down immigration.
Well, you had to, because the Boris wave caused 945,000 people to come here in 2022-23.
So who was in the Home Office at peak migration? Who was in charge of the Home Office when UK's migration figures were at their peak?
You tell me.
Suella Braverman and Rob Jenrick.
OK.
And they are the people who are apparently now going to fix it.
You're all Tories together who had promised to cut the numbers to tens of thousands.
The difference is I did.
All right.
They didn't.
So you think you can be better trusted than Nigel Farage on this issue? When one of his main planks of campaigning is to bring down immigration.
Yeah, but the point is, he doesn't deliver. In the local elections, they were promising to bring down council tax. Reform councils have got the highest council tax increases in the country. This is why people that voted for them previously are not voting them again. In Essex, people that voted for them realised that they had been sold a pup. They realised that they'd been lied to by Reform. The people of Kent are realising this, which is why Conservatives are winning by-elections and taking seats off of Reform.
Have you also got a problem with asylum seekers being housed in military bases in your constituency? What are you going to do about that?
So this is, I think, appalling behaviour by the Labour government. So on Thursday night, after the House rose, we discovered that they are going to have a massive expansion of using former military bases to house asylum seekers. They try to sneak it out whilst the House isn't sitting. So I've spoken with Chris Philp, the Shadow Home Secretary. He'll drag a Home Office minister to the dispatch box to explain and justify their action. But this expansion of asylum accommodation centres, these large-scale centres, is an admission of failure.
Do you have any numbers on it? How much do you think they're?
Well, this is the problem. The problem that in Wethersfield, they're going to extend the use by about 2 years, we think.
Right.
And they're going to increase the numbers by about 50 to 60%. But again, we're hearing this through the grapevine
So you
because
need
they
to
haven't
get
told
the
us.
Home Secretary back to answer questions about that, or indeed an immigration minister. Finally, you're trying to get Andy Burnham into the House of Commons as well, so that you can grill him about what he plans to do. Is that right? Just very quickly, James Cleverly.
Well, look, if he's going to be Prime Minister, I think everybody, including Labour MPs, ought to know what he's going to do.
So your concern is that he could become Prime Minister in recess and face no scrutiny before he gets crowned?
So he could become Prime Minister, start making a whole load of decisions, governmental decisions, over the summer, and the first opportunity to formally quiz him on anything will be in September. Now, I think that is deeply, deeply inappropriate, as do, I think, most people.
So when should he come to the House, then?
First possible opportunity.
OK, before recess.
Well, if he's going to...
So you think this whole process should be sped up?
Well, no, I think he should... He can speak from the backbenches. His maiden speech could be an example, a full list of what he intends to do.
All right, we'll ask Steve Reid whether he agrees with that theory. Thank you very much indeed for joining me, James Cleverly. Thank you, James Cleverly. Coming up next, it's the Housing Secretary, Steve Reid, and you won't want to miss it. This is the Camilla Tominey Show, only on GB News.
Five hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates, 5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5. You got me. You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah. Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight.
On the unpredictable.
What did she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pearce.
And me, Miriam Cates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Welcome to Free Speech Nation with me, Josh Howard. This is the show where each week we see what's happening in the world of culture, current affairs and politics.
First we'll say, welcome to the UK. Oh, thank you.
And we're not afraid to use our free speech so that you can use yours.
It's not controversial in the slightest to anyone who hasn't lost their mind.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights at 7 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From cold mornings
to warm family brunches.
From football to tennis in the car.
In the kitchen.
GB News Breakfast is there. With the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it? We're here again. To start your day just right. GB News Breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact that Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to the Camilla Tominey Show on GB News. We're just waiting for Steve Reid, the Housing Secretary, to get ready. Lots of questions to ask him because, of course, he was one of Keir Starmer's staunchest supporters. I'm wondering whether he regrets what he said back in May said the Prime Minister had absolutely done enough to secure his job and that he would, quote, still be PM at the end of this year. Not looking great, that. So we will be asking Steve Reid that in just a minute. And before we do that, this year we're celebrating 5 years of GB News. On the 6th of August, we're going to be holding events across the country and we want you to join us. So save the date. And if you want to be first to hear about the day's plans or how to get involved, scan the QR code on the screen or visit gbnews.com/celebrate. So we're just waiting for the Housing Secretary, Steve Reid, to arrive. And I'm hoping in the meantime, I may be able to speak to GB News presenter and former Defence Secretary Michael Portillo. Michael, sorry to rush you into the studio while we wait for the Housing Secretary. What have you got coming up on your show at 11?
Good morning to you, Camilla. Well, I'm talking to Ben Jones, who's from the Free Speech Union, and he's arguing in a new book that with migration we've become an island of strangers. You may recognise that phrase from Sir Keir Starmer, and he talks about the censorship that we endure in this country. We've got a fascinating new book on an operation during World War II where the Polish resistance stole from the Germans a V-2 rocket intact and smuggled it back to the Allies. A most fascinating story. We're talking about William Tyndale, who was the first man to translate the Bible into English. Poor fellow met a very sticky end. He was strangled and burned, but he left us the legacy of the Bible in English. And with summertime, I find this heat a thirsty business, so I'm going to be sampling some summer wines.
Summer wines again. You lucky thing, honestly. We cannot have such fun between 9:30 and 11 because it's just too early to start drinking. While I have you, Michael, I was very intrigued by the story on the front page of the Sunday Times, which is suggesting that actually Dan Jarvis, to his credit, the new Defence Secretary, has managed to up the defence spending by 1.5 billion, so got it to 15 billion. Now, top brass wanted it to be 28 billion, so it still falls rather short. But this is interesting. Keir Starmer has scrapped plans to replace the Royal Navy's ageing destroyers and frigates in favour of funding drones in his long-awaited defence investment plan. Is that a good idea? I mean, Al Carnes did say, hang on a minute, we're not spending on the right things. Look at what's happening in Ukraine. It's drone warfare. That's the future.
Well, it sounds like a mad and panicked reaction to me. The idea that we can do without a surface fleet is absurd. I mean, look at what happened just the other day when we found it impossible to deploy a vessel in a timely way to Cyprus. That shamed us internationally. The need to deploy vessels, a surface fleet, is not going to go away. Of course, we need drones on top of that. But if they're seriously... I mean, they will be a laughingstock in NATO if they seriously say, we're not going to replace the surface fleet, we're going to rely on drones. I mean, you don't have to be an expert in defence to see that that is nonsense.
Yes, although if the Prime Minister wants to, quote, secure a legacy over the course of the next 3 weeks, I mean, we don't know if it's going to be a coronation yet or not. Al Carnes, who is a former military man, seems to be considering his position. Then in a way, wouldn't he be wise to up defence spending so he can go to that NATO summit, which I believe is July the 7th, with something in his back pocket? That would be politically expedient, at least.
It doesn't sound to me like it's the sort of plan that will command any sort of support or admiration in NATO. And by the way, I'm very surprised to hear reports that Andy Burnham has signed off on this. I imagine Andy Burnham has not yet, probably in his lifetime, received a military briefing. And to sign off on the defence plan for the country for the next 10 years or so without having received a military briefing would seem to me a very unwise way to start even before you become Prime Minister.
Actually, that's a really good point. That's another line in this story, right? That, yeah, he appears to have given it the green light. Andy Burnham, who is expected to succeed Starmer next month, is understood to have signed off on the plan after his team... Oh, hang on, we've got Steve Reid. I need to leave it there, Michael. We'll look forward to seeing you at 11 o'clock. Thank you very much indeed.
Bye, Camilla.
Steve Reid, Secretary of State for Housing, Communities and Local Government. Thank you very much indeed for joining me on GB News. Listen, you have been one of the Prime Minister's staunchest supporters. Good to see you. I'm wondering now if you rather regret defending him now he's resigned.
Do you know, when I was a council leader, I used to demand support from my team, and I demanded of myself what I demanded of my team. But the Prime Minister has taken his decision. He announced on Monday he's going to stand down as Prime Minister and leader of the Labour Party. So we will now elect a new leader of our party who will become Prime Minister. I'm going to be backing Andy Burnham.
you are now backing Andy Burnham, because there's been a bit of consternation about cabinet ministers who had been supporting Keir Starmer and their eagerness to appear alongside Andy Burnham. I noticed, and I was quite surprised, Steve Reid, because you have been one of Keir Starmer's most loyal lieutenants, to see you in his selfie picture from Monday. Why did you appear in his selfie as the Prime Minister was resigning, poor bloke?
Camilla, if I might venture, Camilla, that's because you don't know me at all. And I've known Andy Burnham for the better part of 20 years. He used to work for my very good friend and political mentor, Tessa Jowell, sadly no longer with us. So I've known Andy since then. And for the last 10 years, when he's been Mayor of Manchester, I've had various roles on the Labour front bench where I've been advocating for more devolution. And Andy and I have spoken regularly about devolution, empowering communities over that decade. Now Andy is going to become, I hope, leader of our party and Prime Minister, and is going to put rocket boosters under the devolution agenda that we've already been pushing as part of a government. I think that is important, because when you consider we are one of the richest countries in the world, and yet we have some of the poorest regions in Europe in our country, those wide economic inequalities happen because power is too centralised in Westminster. I have recognised that for well over a decade. Andy knows that too, so we will pursue that agenda, and I think it is a really exciting one.
This is extraordinary, Steve
So I was
Reid.
delighted to see Andy coming back for that reason.
Are you? Right. May the 11th, I'm going to quote you now, changing leader just leads to chaos. May the 12th, we must unite behind the Prime Minister. May the 15th, doom scrolling through Prime Ministers is never the answer. May the 15th again, we must stop talking to ourselves and get on with delivering our manifesto. Country first, party second. And now you're lining up behind Andy Burnham. It's extraordinary, this.
Well, Keir Starmer resigned on Monday, so we will be electing a new leader and he will become Prime Minister. And of the options available, I think Andy Burnham is the best option. So we will do this transition in a quick, smooth and orderly way. And through it all, we will remain focused on the interests of this country, which is why I am still focused on changes like the repeal of the Vagrancy Act, which I'm coming on the shows this morning to talk about, which criminalises people because they are homeless. We shouldn't tackle this as a criminal problem. We should tackle it as a social problem and look at what support we can give people to get them off the streets and into somewhere stable and permanent where they can live. And that is a change we're making. That's an announcement I'm making today. We are going through a transition, but we remain focused on the country, and that is the right thing to do.
We'll get onto the Vagrancy Act in just a minute. I'm quite happy to ask you about that, but you must admit that the public must look at this and think it's absolutely ridiculous for you to spend most of May backing the Prime Minister, and now seemingly it's great that Andy Burnham's come down from Manchester and stabbed him in the back, and presumably you, along with Rachel Reeves and others, are now lining yourselves up for a new job in a new cabinet. Do you want to serve under Andy Burnham then, having staunchly defended the Prime Minister for the last 2 years?
Camilla, the Prime Minister resigned on Monday, so we're going to elect a new leader who will become Prime Minister. So like everyone else, I have to take a view on that. You invited me on to give you my opinion. I've given my opinion. You may not like my opinion, but that is my opinion. So I will be backing Andy Burnham. I've known him for 20 years. We've worked very closely on devolution for the last 10 years, and I think he's the right man to take us forward. Now Keir Starmer has resigned. That sounds pretty straightforward to me.
It's actually, I'm not asking on behalf of myself. I'm asking on behalf of my increasingly incredulous audience, who finds it rather ridiculous that you could be staunchly in bat for Keir Starmer last month, telling everybody he's the best thing since sliced bread, and then in a matter of weeks, OK, now the Prime Minister has resigned, you're fully throatedly supporting Andy Burnham, a man the public knows very little about. If Andy Burnham's so great, why don't you have a general election?
What precisely is the problem in supporting somebody until they resign, and then you have to support somebody else? I don't really see what your problem is. That's the real world. Very different. If you remember,
you've spent the last 2 years insisting that the Prime Minister is a great Prime Minister who you back because he's so great. Well, he's not that great, is he? He's had to resign.
Well, he's resigned, so now we've got to pick somebody else. But the important thing, you're focusing on who's up, who's down in politics. I'm trying to focus on things that matter most to the British public, like changing the way we deal with homelessness so we can get people off the street and into somewhere secure that they can live. I don't really care about this political top trumps that your show seems obsessed with. I'm much more interested in the public and the change we can make for the public.
Well, if you're interested in the public, why don't you have a general election?
Because I saw a poll this week that shows that over 2/3 of the public do not want a general election. They want us to get on and govern, and that is what we're going to do. The election will come within 3 years, then the public can have a say. But right now, Camilla, I don't know whether your audience are different, but over 2/3 of the public, according to this opinion poll, do not want a general election now.
Well,
they want us to get on with an orderly
poll.
transition to a new Prime Minister and speed up delivering change.
I've got a different opinion poll. YouGov. It was a survey taken 3 days ago. Do you want a general election? 48% yes, 35% no.
That's the polar opposite of the one that I saw, Camilla, and I haven't seen the detail of your one, so I don't know what question was asked.
Well, the whole country isn't full of Brendas from Bristol, is it?
And that's what we're going to do.
I think they've probably say to themselves, has Andy Burnham got a mandate? Has Andy Burnham got a mandate, Steve Reid?
I knock on a lot of doors. Yes, he has. We live in a parliamentary democracy. MPs choose the leader of their party and the Prime Minister, so yes, he has. People voted for their MP at the last general. We're a parliamentary democracy, not a presidency. So MPs choose the leader and Prime Minister. And you can talk about personalities all you like. I'm going to keep trying to switch back to talking about policies and the things that will make a difference in people's lives. Building more social homes, getting homeless people off the streets.
In a minute, but sorry, I just need to point out this other hypocrisy. Following Liz Truss's resignation in October 2022, someone tweeted, hashtag, general election now. Guess who that was, Steve Reid? Andy Burnham.
But back then, I think the public wanted a general election. We were facing our third Prime Minister in 2 months, and Liz Truss had crashed the economy. Boris Johnson had resigned because all of his ministers quit in protest because he'd been holding lockdown parties in 10 Downing Street. They were in chaos. We are not. This is a smooth transition, and through it all, I'm going to keep focused, as we all are, on the British public and delivering the change they want to see. I hope now we can stop talking about personalities and get onto policy, because that's what makes a difference to people's lives.
I think we're talking about democracy, aren't we? So it's OK to have a general election now if the Tories are failing, but not if Labour are.
This year, do you know what? Figures this week, social house building is up by 25% compared to last year. And last year we built more in 1 year than in any previous year for 40 years since records began. That is what I'm focused on. The British people want us to do things like solve the housing crisis. That is what matters.
All right, let's talk about the Vagrancy Act changes that you want to come in. You want it to be repealed. You've said that. You don't want rough sleeping to be a crime. I think most of our audience would agree with you. However, Labour's record on homelessness hasn't been that great, has it? According to Shelter, which is the homelessness charity, the number of people officially recorded as homeless has actually risen by a shocking 8% in 1 year. I mean, aren't you the party that said you were going to completely eradicate homelessness?
And that's why we're building all of these new social homes. So under the Conservatives, rough sleeping doubled and the number of families in temporary accommodation doubled. We need more council house building. So this week I saw statistics, 25% more right now than a year ago. And last year we built more new social and council homes in 1 year than in any year for the previous 40 years. That is how you tackle homelessness. You build the homes that we can put homeless people into them. If you look at who is homeless on our streets, it's very often people with mental ill health, drug and alcohol addictions. A very high proportion of those people are also care leavers or veterans from the armed forces. None of those people deserve to be criminalised for the circumstance they find themselves in. So we're going to repeal that legislation, and we've announced a £3.5 billion programme to get those people the support they need to get off the streets, and we're building the homes so that we can give them somewhere permanent to live. Now, we live in a very compassionate country. People do not think that if your life falls apart and you end up on the streets, you should be sent to court and potentially sent to prison. They believe you should be supported to get your life back on track. That is what we're focused on doing.
If we don't want the chaos and confusion of a transition period to the next leader, then presumably Andy Burnham should just keep the current cabinet in place and not reshuffle at all. Why is he considering bringing back David Miliband and choosing between Streeting and McFadden and the other Miliband as Chancellor? Are you going to keep your job Otherwise, all of these policies that you've tried to enact, they're just going to fall by the wayside as somebody else takes over, surely.
Well, any Prime Minister, whether it's the existing Prime Minister or a different Prime Minister, can take decisions about who is in their cabinet at any particular point. But the key is the team that Andy puts around him will be a team that will deliver on the manifesto we were elected on 2 years ago. There will be differences of focus and emphasis. We talked already a bit about devolution. Andy massively supports that, so do I, and I always have done since I was a leader of a council in South London. But the government will continue until the general election. We'll keep making changes like the ones we've just been talking about, getting homeless people off the streets and building more affordable homes.
But why have we got this kind of 3-week period of execution between now and a possible coronation? If nobody stands against Burnham, then he's the next Labour leader and consequently the next Prime Minister. So why are we waiting around until July the 17th?
Well, it's a very quick timetable, actually. Nominations open on the 9th of July and they close on the 16th of July. And if Andy's the only candidate who will become Prime Minister, the Tories took whole summers about it. Do you remember when they went off and talked to each other? We are going to, in my what I believe will happen is we will unite behind Andy Burnham. He will become Prime Minister. Then the government will continue to deliver the change that we've seen. Of course, the public want to see that change happen far faster. That is what we will all be focused on making sure happens.
All right, Steve Reed, Housing Secretary, thank you very much indeed for joining me this morning on GB News. Good to speak to you.
Thank you, Camilla. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Love it. Right, joining me now is the independent MP for Canterbury, Whitstable and the Villages. Sounds so English, that. Rosie Duffield. Don't know if you managed to catch that with Steve Reed. Can you understand there is a degree of incredulity among our audience as to somebody going into bat for the last 2 years for Keir Starmer, basically telling everyone he's the best Prime Minister since, I don't know, Churchill, and then in the next breath lines up for a selfie with the new guy, Andy Burnham, presumably in a bid to get himself into the next cabinet? Or am I being a cynic, Rosie Duffield?
Yeah, no, Camilla, this is what the public is seeing, and it is just utterly ridiculous, isn't it? It's so hypocritical. And I've got to say, in the WhatsApp groups, some of us, some of my veteran colleagues were tittering quite a bit at some of the people who'd rushed to be in the front of that selfie, who looked as though they'd swallowed a wasp because they were still kind of ostensibly backing up Starmer. So, I think that hypocrisy just looks ridiculous, and it's doublespeak. It's kind of dystopian. Just tell the truth. We all know that basically a lot of people are lining themselves up for the top jobs, and that's the way that they think they can do it.
I suppose people might say it's politics in it, but at the same time, Rosie Duffield, you have been agitating for a change of Prime Minister. You quite like the look of Andy Burnham the last time we spoke. I'm wondering if you still like the look of him now, because you are a renowned feminist, you're gender critical. He's been quite pro-trans. He actually advocated back in the day a kind of Nicola Sturgeon-esque gender self-identification, basically with no medical certification at all. But how about this? You'll be familiar with this piece in The Spectator this week, which has been briefed into. So Tim Shipman wrote the piece, and a senior Labour Party source told the magazine this: the reason Labour have always craved but also been cautious about a female leader is because in a Labour government she could have an unashamedly female agenda focused on health, education, family finances and issues like safer streets, social care, online safety for kids that are disproportionately important to women. Along comes Andy, surrounded by female advisors and backers, but more importantly, genuinely passionate about those traditionally female-orientated issues, and much less so with the bombs and the budgets. So, this is the, wait for it, so we could finally see what Labour has failed to deliver all these years. A female Prime Minister in all but sex. There are actual Labour sources out there that think that Andy Burnham is Labour's first female Prime Minister. Now, I appreciate confusion over gender over on the left, but this is getting a bit ridiculous, isn't it?
It's utterly ridiculous. Of course it is. And obviously, again, the WhatsApp groups are full of quite a lot of expletives over this. This just speaks to Labour's problem. They seem to be incapable of getting a woman leader, not even a candidate this time round. 2026, and we're supposed to be the party of equality. So it just seems insane that somebody thought that was okay to write. But I'm not as shocked as probably lots of other people are, because there is a deep sort of misogyny and sexism within the party. I mean, look at Heidi Alexander. She's the Transport Secretary. Is that a woman's issue? I don't know. The Chancellor, is that a traditional woman's job? Probably not, actually. So
I don't know if you can.
Rubbish.
I don't know if you can preside over buses and trains if you have a pair of breasts, Rosie. It's difficult, isn't it? What do you think about the call for general election now? I mean, Andy Burnham called for one in 2022. I just discussed it with Steve Reed. I don't think Andy Burnham does have a mandate. The Labour Party has a mandate, and it was on the manifesto, and maybe if he doesn't change it, that's all well and good. But the public knows nothing about this bloke.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. I mean, obviously, I was on the opposition benches, and when Boris took over as an opposition, we were baying for blood and saying we need a general election. When Liz Truss took over, we did the exact same thing. When Rishi Sunak took over, we did exactly the same. So again, it's hypocrisy in politics that people can see. I think actually it looks and sounds as though, I know you've just read a poll, but just talking to my constituents and getting the emails in and seeing those other polls, I'm not sure there is an appetite for a general election. But at the same time, it does look a bit like a dictatorship if we're just bringing one person in unquestioned. So I'm not overly comfortable with that. It doesn't look very democratic. I like Andy, but oh my goodness, of course I'm not going to consider supporting someone whose views on gender are so different to mine and the majority of people. So we have had conversations. I'll continue to have those conversations with him. I think like a lot of people, particularly on the left, they have gone a bit more towards the mainstream. I think he does realise what the stakes are now for women, and I think he supports the Supreme Court ruling. But we'll see. The jury's out. I'm waiting to find out.
He says he supports the Supreme Court ruling, but previously he said trans women are women. Do you think he still thinks that?
I hope not. I don't think so. We're on the same corridor at work at the moment. We've had a few chats. I'll carry on talking to him about it and see.
And also, finally, Rosie, would you return to the Labour Party if Burnham becomes the next leader and Prime Minister?
Potentially. I'm definitely thinking about it. We're having chats. I'm not in a massive rush. I want to see what's happening. I think Andy is the only possible saviour of the Labour Party's fortunes. I think Steve Reed and others are going to say we don't want an election because they'd be out given their record of the last 2 years. So he's the only hope at the moment. So I'm keeping my options open for now.
All right. Rosie Duffield, thank you very much for your time this morning.
Thanks
as ever, great to speak to you. Thank you. Coming up next, I'm going to be speaking all about the 10th anniversary of Brexit with economist Roger Bootle, who's got the new edition of his book out, The Trouble with Europe. This is the Camilla Tominey Show.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there and welcome to your holiday sun forecast from the Met Office. The heat wave across Europe does continue over the next few days, but it will slowly start to cool off. Across parts of Spain, they did see the record-breaking temperatures, but they are slowly starting to decrease through the days. We do have thunderstorms across northern Italy, but the mainland are pushing 40 degrees. Athens and Santorini are around the high 20s and low 30s, but as I said, as we go through the week, those temperatures will start to drop towards those low 30s.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
I'm Michael Portillo. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
As we know, in a democracy, you're free to choose how you want to celebrate. And this is right on brand for Donald Trump. He loves to be a big spectacle with any celebration he does. He wants it to be big. He wants it to grab headlines. And clearly right now he wants to show strength. So it's a tactical decision as well. As we know, there's a very unpopular war going on with Iran. And he's hoping to announce a deal tonight, which would be the greatest birthday gift he could get, because we do need a deal. But it's only Donald Trump who would choose to do this. A lot of the people who follow UFC voted for him, and he's being tactical ahead of midterm elections, trying to show strength.
GB News, the People's Channel. Nana Queer, weekends from 3 p.m.
5 years ago, from today, I got to meet my absolute hero, Nigel Farage, and rub shoulders with Dan Wootton and Andrew Neil, the latter being particularly grumpy. He was less than impressed as well when the sound failed during his first broadcast. The lighting was dreadful. I looked mouldy, and at one point I was practically invisible during a breakfast show because of a black backdrop behind me. I was little more than eyes and teeth. We faced obstacle after obstacle, including Stop Funding Hate, an activist group that set about trying to destroy us before we'd even broadcast a single second. Advertisers were frightened off and hostility towards the channel was actively encouraged, which was deeply ironic. But still, we persisted. If anything, it made us more creative and more resilient.
GB News, the People's Channel. Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
Ian McKellen is helping relaunch the Yard Theatre up in Hackney, which reopens this summer, with a new purpose-built 200 capacity auditorium. Tiny, but he'll be doing a brand new version of King Lear. Up in Scotland, Alan Cumming has taken over the Pitlochry Festival. And I just want people to know that all these small theatres, number one, it's not such a big risk. Ticket prices are £30, £35, £40, top price. And you can find less than that. So you can take a risk, but you'll go along and you'll experience something. You'll be part of something. And I am a huge fan of what we get in the West End. It's world class, but it is a lot of money. And it's sometimes just a little bit predictable or complacent or safe, I would say. Not always, but sometimes.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Welcome back. As we mark the 10th anniversary of the Brexit vote, the economist Roger Bootle is here with me now to talk about his new book, The Trouble with Europe. Well, you wrote the original 9 years ago and then had to heavily update it and rewrite it. A decade on, I'm going to hold it to camera 4. Where is 4? There it is. They're all labelled, but I'm functionally enumerate. Unlike Roger, who knows his onions. So, the trouble with Europe. What is the trouble with Europe? Sum it up as quickly as you can, Roger.
I think the trouble with Europe goes right back to the Treaty of Rome 1957. It's the idea that you should harmonise, push all these different countries together as though they were one and to try and make them one. In fact, Europe is incredibly diverse in the old-fashioned sense.
Yes.
And it should remain so, in my view.
Fair enough. So, when it comes to evaluating the economic impact of Brexit a decade on, obviously, the Remainers and the Project Fearmongerers like to say it's been an unmitigated disaster. It's chopped, I don't know, as much as 8% from GDP, and Britain has declined as a result. What's your verdict?
I think that's nonsense, frankly. Now, what they do is the worst sort of economics, frankly. They look at the last few years, and it's true that the UK hasn't done that well, but funny enough, quite a lot of bad things have been happening in the UK.
Yes.
We had COVID, we had lockdown, we had the Russian invasion of Ukraine, and so on and so forth. And they sort of push all that to one side. Whatever's happened that's bad somehow or other gets pinned on Brexit. Now, my own view is that probably we've suffered some sort of small net economic loss as a result of Brexit. Difficult to measure it. I think it's quite small. The reason I say that is that before Brexit, we all knew that there were going to be some negatives. In particular, you come out of the single market, the customs union, trade is a bit more difficult, impossible, but a bit more difficult, paperwork, delays at the border, and that's a particular problem, I think, for small companies.
Sure.
We knew that was going to happen, but we thought there would be major offsets. And in particular, what we thought is that given our new freedoms, Britain would deregulate and move away from the EU bureaucracy and all its horrors, instead of which we've done none of that.
And actually, we didn't deregulate enough, arguably, under the Tories, who said they would maximise the benefits. Obviously, the Labour government are inherently opposed to deregulation in general. We've now got Rachel Reeves, the Chancellor, talking about growth coming from realigning ourselves with Brussels. Some might say that doesn't make any economic sense if you're also arguing that we've got the fastest growth in the G7. Why do you then want to peg yourself to people who have got lower growth?
Well, I absolutely agree with that. It's very odd to me that someone who's a trained economist like the Chancellor can spout this utter and complete nonsense. What a lot of people don't understand is that the European Union in general, on average, is not an economic success story. Recently, some countries are doing well, Spain, Italy, recently, although not before.
Yes.
But overall, it is not a success story. So why do you want to shackle yourself to a group of countries like this? Meanwhile, America is going gangbusters. Lots of countries around the world are growing pretty well in today's difficult circumstances. You want to, surely, to associate yourself with dynamic countries that are going to grow fast. They seem to think that's true of France and Germany. No one else does.
Yeah, well, Germany hasn't done very well economically in the last few years
absolutely.
at all, has it? When it comes to the idea of Prime Minister Burnham As an economist, Roger Bootle, what's your reaction to that?
Well, as many other people have said, we just don't know, do we? We just don't know what he believes in. He's made various comments in the past about wanting to rejoin the EU in his lifetime, I think he said. I suspect he hasn't thought very deeply about it, frankly.
Well, isn't that a bit worrying when he's going to become the next Prime Minister in a matter of weeks?
Yes, it is, and he will have to think about it, and I hope he's going to be well advised. One thing I am quite confident of is that when both the government and the British people acquaint themselves with on what terms we could possibly rejoin the EU, they will recoil in horror and think, well, maybe we shouldn't have come out all those years ago, but we don't want to go back in now.
Yes. What do you make of him being questioned about the fiscal rules and basically saying, look, I'm not going to take an exam on it? And in a previous interview, he talked about not being in hoc to the markets. You can perhaps have some sympathy with the second premise, purely on the basis of it having gobbled up Liz Truss and spat her out. There is this sense to which the markets exert a lot of control over prime ministers, correct?
Yes.
But rightly so or not?
Absolutely. He says we shouldn't be in hoc to the markets. Well, we are in hoc to the markets, to the tune of goodness knows how many squillion, almost 100% of our GDP, masses going out in interest every day. So I think he's got a lot of learning to do, quite frankly. The markets may educate him, unfortunately. We don't want to go through, again, the Liz Truss affair where the market yields went up dramatically. I hope he's going to be sensible. Might be able to borrow a bit more, but not a lot. It ought to be pretty clear to him. The money is simply not there. There's no free lunch here. He cannot increase government spending massively, and the markets will punish him.
But he's going to want to, Roger, because he's got big spending plans.
Yes.
We just heard from Sacha Lord, one of his friends and somebody who advised him on his nighttime economy in Manchester, that he's one of these politicians that likes to listen to everyone. To be fair, he has got quite a good reputation in that city because of his alliance with businesses, and obviously we know it's undergone a huge amount of regeneration in recent years. Some would attribute that to George Osborne, who I think ploughed in about $4 billion, but what have you. He needs to be business-friendly. When it comes to the next Chancellor, there's quite the choice here, isn't there? Ed Miliband, Wes Streeting, Pat McFadden. Who do you think would be best in terms of the future of this country?
Well, I'm not familiar with any of these people, except by reputation.
Right.
I think the markets would prefer Wes Streeting.
Right.
They would be alarmed at Ed Miliband, quite frankly. And I think whatever his own views, our new Prime Minister would be mad to appoint Ed Miliband as Chancellor. That would be a big mistake initially. We all know that he's hemmed in by the markets. So what you don't want to do is to alarm them straight away with the appointment of a Chancellor very much on the left. I think the sensible thing to do would be to appoint Wes Streeting.
Quite a lot of your book is devoted to how we get back to growth. The other thing that's notable about Andy Burnham is how critical he's been of Thatcher's reign. Now, he had to be in Makerfield because it's a former mining community and I don't think they've got much truck with the former Prime Minister. However, I would imagine some of the measures you're recommending to get back to growth probably are rather like the Iron Ladies policies of the 80s and 90s.
Well, there are echoes of that. I mean, not everything that Mrs Thatcher did, in my view, was right or even effective. She made some mistakes. But the overall record is a fantastic achievement. People don't seem to know that during those years, carrying on into Tony Blair's period, the UK outgrew most of the industrial world. We were growing far faster than Germany and France and the EU and America. So we've got to build on that history of success of low taxes, competition, deregulation. And what is there to do? Well, I think all of those things need to be done, but deregulation is, I think, the most important thing.
Roger Bootle, thank you very much indeed. Your book, The Trouble with Europe, is out now. There you have it. Now, we've already spoken to Michael Portillo, who's coming up at 11 for you with a lot of great guests. I'm going to be back next week, 9:30. Who knows who will be the Prime Minister at that point. And indeed, you're going to have some weather. Clue, it's not as hot as it was last week. I do beg you to enjoy the rest of your Sunday, and I'll see you again this time next week in Westminster. Thank you.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. After an exceptionally hot week, it is going to be feeling much fresher today. Some showers around, plenty of bright, if not sunny spells. And the reason for that fresher feel, well, it's all thanks to a cold front drifting its way eastwards across the country and really introducing some fresher air for many of us as well. Now, like I said, there will be some showers around across parts of the south and southeast. Plenty of showers drifting into western Scotland and parts of Northern Ireland, but actually across the bulk of the country it should be dry, plenty of bright sunny spells, and even though it's going to be feeling a lot fresher, not quite as muggy, it should still be warm and pleasant in the sunshine, highs reaching around 26 degrees Celsius in the south. Now, to finish off the day across Scotland, a little bit unsettled. There will still be a fair few showers drifting in off a southwesterly flow. Quite windy by the end of the day around western coasts as well, with a chance of exposed gales around some coastal areas. A fair few showers drifting in around coasts of Northern Ireland, but actually across much of England and Wales, it should be a largely dry end to the day. Once again, some showers just sneaking into the far southeast. And it remains a fairly similar picture through the overnight period, still as low pressure situated to the northwest that continues to drag in some showers, if not some longer spells of rain across parts of Scotland. Some of these drifting into Northern Ireland, perhaps parts of England and Wales, particularly in the west, first thing on Monday morning. But for most, it should be a dry, clear night, particularly in the east, and feeling far less humid overnight as well. So a much more comfortable night's sleep for many of us to head into the new week. Now, once again, it's across the northwest where we do still pick up some spells of rain. A bit more cloud in the west at times as well, first thing. But actually by the afternoon, lots of this cloud breaking up nicely, allowing a return of the sunshine. And fairly similar temperatures, light winds. So where we do catch any bright spells, feeling pleasant once again. Highs mostly in the mid-20s.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
We're celebrating a golden summer with a terrific two-part Great British giveaway. First, you could win a sensational £60,000 in tax-free cash. And that's not all, as you'll also win our most precious prize to date, a fine gold bar worth over £5,000. For a chance to win, text GOLD to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entry start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB22 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 21st of August. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pooled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
At the stroke of midnight, the news doesn't stop, and neither do we.
Day in, day out. Forget stuffy late night TV shows.